When the body is conditioned to become the mind, then to change is to be greater than the body. I can't mismanage my thoughts and feelings. I gotta change how I act. I gotta watch how I speak. I gotta become conscious. I gotta reinvent myself. Now this is really important. I gotta break the habit of being myself, because 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old is a set of memorized behaviors, like a computer program, emotional reactions, unconscious beliefs and perceptions. And the act of observing those states of mind and body separates you from that program. Sitting down and thinking, okay, who in history do I admire? Who are great people, role models that I can follow? What are the qualities and characteristics that they have? How am I going to change? You know, these are what we call frontal lobe questions. The creative center of the brain switches on and the emotional center settles down. So the first step to change is to become conscious of how you think, to notice how you act, to pay attention to how you feel. How would I have to be in a new life if I was really going to heal? What would I have to change about myself? And it turns out the more conscious you become of how unconscious you are, you know, lighting a match in a dark place, that first step creates enormous amounts of chaos in the brain and body. And it's disturbing, so people just go back to the same addiction, the same emotion, the same problem. This feels better. No, that feels familiar. There's this interesting phenomenon that if you close your eyes and you begin to think about doing something, and you are running a pattern or you are doing something, you would rehearse it in your mind. Yeah. Turns out that the act of mentally rehearsing something when you're truly present, your brain does not know the difference between what's going on out there and what's going on in here. In fact, your brain will begin to look like you've been doing it. So now your brain is no longer a record of the past, because typically it is. Now it's a map to the future. So now you're priming your brain. Pay attention to what you're doing. You got to pay attention and repeat it, firing and wiring. You're going to assemble new circuits. Nothing magical there. You learn something new. Learning's making new connections. Get some instruction. You get instruction. You get your body involved. Get your body involved. You're going to have an experience. Experience enriches the brain. The act of rehearsing who they're going to be, what are the qualities, and beginning to get in this creative state, began to lay down the circuits of a new personality. And a new personality is connected to a new personal reality. Now you're literally becoming somebody else. And now you're turning down the genes for disease and you're turning up these other genes. Now their body is changing by thought alone. They're not waiting for their healing to feel joy and gratitude. They're feeling gratitude and joy. Now their body's believing that it's healed because the body's feeling the emotion ahead of the experience. I started to realize that this reinvention process is exactly what we've always done. It's just that we get complacent in certain areas of our life and we stop. And when you're truly focused and you're truly paying attention and you're in the present moment, all of a sudden you will leave this three-dimensional reality. And when you leave this three-dimensional reality, there's only one other place you go, and that is the realm of thought, and that's called the quantum field. And that quantum field is where all possibilities exist. It is the unifying field that governs everything material in this world. And if you're going to change something material, that means you got to get beyond your body to heal your body. Energy dictates matter. So when you're truly in the field and you're making changes there, then the downward cascade, neurologically, biologically, chemically, hormonally, genetically, is the side effect of what's happening in the field. You're more connected to a realm that doesn't play by time. This is really not for everybody. When I started studying spontaneous remissions, it was for people who had reached the end of their emotional belief, where there was no longer any answers. The doctors gave up on it, had nothing else to do. But now, fast forward to today, I mean, in an age of information, ignorance is a choice. Technology gives us very quick information. So now people are informed. So now information has scaled and changed the way people face off with health conditions. Surgical procedures, pharmaceuticals are not always the first choice for people because there's other ways. And people only do the best with what's available. And just like, you know, an infection spreads amongst a community that creates disease, health and wellness can be as infectious as disease. Right. I'm not interested in success. I've had it. I know that that's an important element. I think success is a side effect of who you are. But what am I after? I'm after making a difference in the world. You just have to build the model and then come up with the science to be able to piece it together. And science, turns out, is the language to help to demystify that process. If you give people sound scientific information, and every time they learn something new, they're adding new connections in their brain. That's what learning is. Wow. And if they can begin to pay attention for just 1 hour, now they're causing jungles of neurons to begin to organize as a platform of understanding. What's the relevance of that? Now, you're installing the neurological hardware in your brain in preparation for an experience. And if the more you understand what you're doing and why, the how gets easier. You're going to have more intention behind what you're doing, and you're going to assign more meaning to it. And then, if we can set up the conditions in the environment and give people the proper instruction and get their mind and body working together, they're going to have a new experience. And that experience then is going to enrich even more circuits in the brain. Those people that get their behaviors to match their intentions and their actions equal to their thoughts, now they're teaching their body chemically to understand what their mind is intellectually understood. The end product of an experience is an emotion. And all of a sudden, they're going to feel unlimited. They're going to feel empowered. They're going to feel successful. They're going to feel worthy. And while you keep repeating the experience, you know this as an athlete. It's going to become automatic.
Right.
It's going to become innate. It's going to become second nature. It's going to become who you are. You don't have to think about it any longer. So for me, I chase the mystical. I want those profound moments. Where I cannot go back to being the same guy again. Because once you taste that wine or you drink from that well, all of a sudden the way you perceive reality changes. And we don't see things how they are, we see things how we are. So as you begin to change your circuitry, you're going to perceive more of reality. And why? Because we probably perceive 1% of reality. So how do we begin to fully engage, right? What matters is the essence. What matters is, am I making a difference in the world? How can I begin to affect a change and help people to heal or create a better life for themselves? This is about connecting, and instead of going and getting it, creating a field where you draw it to you, and the synchronicities and the coincidences and the opportunities that are coming to you as a result of you doing the inner work.
Yeah.
Nobody changes until they change their energy. And when you change your energy, you change your life. You got to be greater than the conditions in your environment. You got to maintain that state of being. You got to be greater than the habits and emotions of your body. And you got to sustain it for an extended period of time. You're an awareness. Awareness that has nothing to do with local space and time. I can tell you when a person's about ready to change. I can tell you why people don't change. I can tell you what it takes to change. Most people keep their attention, always their awareness on their body. They keep their attention on everything in their environment, people and things. things. The brain is always scanning everything around us to determine what's known and unknown. Take your attention off your cell phone, your computer, your car, and go from something to nothing. Take your attention off where you're sitting, where you need to be, someplace you have to go from somewhere to nowhere. Take your attention off the people in your life and go from who you identify with, from someone to no one. And so many people spend their whole life building an identity of being someone. And take your attention off time, linear, thinking about the predictable future or the familiar past, and fall into the generous present moment and go from some time to no time. Then all you're left with is consciousness. And that's the moment you're no longer playing by those same rules of matter to matter. In the next moment, the whole brain just lights up. That person is switched on. They'll never be the same person again. They're having a transcendental moment. When you no longer are identifying with your body, your environment, and time, that's the moment you're pure consciousness. Consciousness is the phenomenon above matter. In fact, consciousness is beginning to activate or manipulate circuits in the brain. People just think the brain is creating consciousness. No, consciousness is executing the brain. The brain doesn't change the brain. It takes a long time. It takes a long time for the personality to change the personality, for the ego to change the ego. The programs to change the programs takes forever. Matter takes a long time to change matter. But when you're in this moment, you're no longer playing by those rules.